Welcome to the August 23rd, 2018 edition of the BitcoinNews.com daily radio show. We cover the biggest topics in Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency every single day, forever. This is your host, Space Marine.
And this is Space Cadet. What is up, everybody? Bitcoin is sitting at $6,500 this time of the evening. Space Marine.
Affirmative Space Cadet. The Bitcoin market has moved slightly higher today. It was sitting around $6,400 during the last show about a day ago. And this was after the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission of the United States, rejected 9 Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund ETF proposals at once. The good thing about Bitcoin ETFs, and this is our first story, is that they would allow Bitcoin to be traded on all the major stock trading platforms. Like once an ETF is approved by the SEC, it would soon go live on all the major stock trading platforms, and institutional investors would have an option to trade Bitcoin. Unfortunately, all 9 of these proposals to the SEC were paper Bitcoins, essentially. And what I mean by paper is they don't actually have Bitcoins backing them. None of these 9 ETFs have Bitcoins backing them. So they're basically just paper Bitcoins, the derivatives of Bitcoins. And this is kind of like the same thing you see on the gold market. On COMEX, which is the biggest gold exchange in the world, they have 1,000 times, hundreds of times at least, but up to 1,000 times or even more. It's hard to find these stats anymore. Back in the day, it went up to 1,000 at least, not that long ago. So they have like 1,000 to 1 paper gold to the actual gold in the reserves. And these ETFs, they probably would get a massive amount of institutional investment because institutional investors that aren't cryptocurrency and Bitcoin experts, they wouldn't know the difference because they do buy the paper gold. Like they go to their broker and they say, I want gold. They get the paper gold and they're happy with it. If their broker gave them paper Bitcoins, if these ETFs were approved, they'd be happy with it. And it's a horrible thing for the Bitcoin market. Instead of people buying Bitcoin and increasing the Bitcoin demand and increasing the global Bitcoin spot price, which is the Bitcoin price, it would cause money to go towards paper that doesn't affect the global Bitcoin price. So there'd be a ton of money pouring into institutional investment, but Bitcoin's price would not go up. And it's even worse. A lot of these ETF proposals were for shorts. Shorts are a way that stock traders can bet on the market going down. And what I mean by that is like basically a short works by you borrow money from an exchange or someone, and then you sell all of it for USD. Well, you borrow Bitcoin, you sell all of it for USD. The Bitcoin price goes down, so then you buy the same amount of Bitcoins back to pay back the loan and a little interest for less USD, and you take the USD profits. That's a short. People bet on the market going down with shorts. A lot of these Bitcoin ETFs that were rejected yesterday were for shorts. So shorts are actually a very bad thing for the Bitcoin market, especially if like most of the volume in the world, like let's say an ETF is approved and institutional investors are shorting Bitcoin like crazy, they could take acts to manipulate the market together. Like they could team up and manipulate the market and make it crash and make money off the shorts. And that totally happens. There's already a ton of short trading for Bitcoin on BitMEX, the Bitcoin Mercantile Exchange. We're going to talk about them later for another story. And the shorts have been hurting the market. They trade billions of dollars per day. Oftentimes it's shorts. It might be like half long, half short, but it's actually mostly shorts. And BitMEX has been hurting the market with all their paper Bitcoins and all their shorts. And now if an ETF is approved, that's a short ETF, it would hurt the market. And here's the thing. The SEC has actually gone backwards. They said they were rejecting 9 Bitcoin ETFs yesterday. They decided they're going to put a stay on the Direxia on Bitcoin ETFs. They're saying the Direxia on Bitcoin ETFs, which include bear versions and bull versions, there's 5 of them. They're saying they're going to stay that, and they're going to have the senior SEC officials review it. So they might possibly approve it. Like the senior SEC officials actually intervened and said, no, we're putting a stay on this decision, which is very rare for the Bitcoin world. I think this might be the first time this has happened. So they're seriously considering allowing a bunch of short paper ETFs. I guess, to be totally fair, there are some long ETFs in the 5 ETFs. There's 5 ETFs. Some of them are shorts. Some of them are long. So investors will have both options. But it doesn't really matter. If they have both options like we see on BitMEX, they mostly short because it's a lot easier to make the market crash than to make it go up. So institutional traders can work together to crash the market even if they have long and short options. So we'll see what happens with this. There's no imminent decision date. I don't even know if they have like a limit on their decision. Like this, the Direxia on Bitcoin ETFs were taken to the max already. Like they went to the maximum time allowed to make a decision and then they rejected it, but now that's being stayed and this is the first time this has happened. This is very important news, and we're going to keep updating on it in our show in future episodes. Now for our next story.
BitMEX to lease some of the most expensive office space in the world. What's up with that, Space Marine?
Affirmative Space Cadet. The Bitcoin Mercantile Exchange, BitMEX, which we just talked about, is renting some of the most expensive office space in the world in the Chung Kong Center, I hope I pronounced that right, in Hong Kong, China. It cost Hong Kong dollars 225 per square foot per month, and that's about $29 per square foot per month. And they have 20,000 square feet, so that's like $580,000 a month and nearly $7 million per year. This might be one of the most expensive offices in the entire world. They're going to be in the same building as Bloomberg, Barclays Bank, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and also this billionaire guy named La Ka-sheng, who has an empire. So I think this is actually quite interesting for many reasons. But first, they have all these huge financial giants in the same building as them. I think they're going to work together, so that might be really good for BitMEX. Other than that, it's kind of strange. People would think it's kind of strange that, hey, the market went down from $20,000 to $6,000 this year in 2018. Why is a Bitcoin firm buying like the most expensive office? Well, here's how BitMEX works. We just talked about this. They have shorts and longs. They don't thrive off the market going up. That would be long only. They have shorts also. So they actually thrive off volatility. The key word is volatility. The market could be going up in general with some volatility or going down in general with volatility. As long as there's volatility, BitMEX makes a lot of money and the traders make a lot of money. Today, there's been $3 billion of trading volume on BitMEX. The record highs in the past have been $6 billion of trading volume recently. By far the most trading volume out of any crypto-related exchange in the world, but they're not a pure Bitcoin or crypto exchange. They don't trade actual cryptocurrency. They trade derivatives, which is like paper versions of Bitcoins. They trade paper Bitcoins. Not only do they trade paper Bitcoins, they offer 100 times leveraging. You can put one Bitcoin of money into their exchange, and they'll give you 100 Bitcoins worth of money to trade with. So you can get rich quick on BitMEX or just lose your Bitcoin real quick. It can go either way. But usually this year, if you've been betting short, and most people have, they've made lots and lots of money on BitMEX, and now they have a ton of money, and they're using it all on BitMEX. That's why the trading volume's gone up so much. BitMEX has actually made them so much money. So BitMEX can easily afford the $6 million office space. Maybe they make that in one day. I'm not sure, but they might make that in one day. Seriously. And another interesting thing about this that's not as good is it's in China. And our next story is going to talk about China. But China's banned like cryptocurrency trading for the Chinese yuan, their fiat currency. It's like the US banning Bitcoin trading for the USD. That hasn't happened, but it's the equivalent. So Hong Kong is autonomous. They kind of have their own government, but they're definitely a territory of China in the same way Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. So it's kind of weird that the biggest crypto exchange in the world, crypto-related exchange, by volume has moved to China. Even though it's Hong Kong and they're a little more favorable towards crypto, it's still in China. And China has the right to do what they want in Hong Kong pretty much. Like, they usually don't. They leave it autonomous, but they could if they wanted to raid BitMEX. God forbid, and that's the speculation. We'll see what happens. Other than that, it's just a very nice luxury office. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful and extremely high class. And it's in like the richest part of Hong Kong, which is like one of the richest cities in the world. It's like New York City of Asia. Now for our next story.
China is eradicating crypto trading websites.
Affirmative, Space Cadet. China, like we just talked about, banned Bitcoin and crypto trading for the Chinese yuan, their fiat currency. So that basically banned fiat to crypto trading in China, crippled the market. 88 exchanges, and some of these were the biggest exchanges in the world. 88 exchanges had to leave China or close down, and 85 initial coin offerings or ICOs had to close down in China. And 3 of these were the biggest exchanges in the world. Huobi, Binance, and OKCoin, which is now like OKX. I think OKCoin still exists, but they rebranded to OKX after the Chinese ban. So the Chinese exchanges, like, and by the way, China had most of the Bitcoin trading volume in the world. They had 90% dominance in the fiat trading realm. Like 90% of fiat trading for Bitcoin was done with the Chinese yuan, like less than 10% USD. Now it's like quite the opposite. So this has actually been a good thing. Binance, Huobi, and OKCoin/OKX have fled China, and now they're proliferating across the entire world because they made a ton of money before they got banned from China. And now they're like going into many, many different countries all over the world, expanding everywhere. Like they're even coming into the US now with headquarters. They have headquarters in like many different countries. And overall, exchange trading for Bitcoin has decentralized itself. It was getting centralized in China big time. Now it's decentralized a bit more. And now there's more opportunities for different countries. But back to the topic. China has banned 124 offshore crypto exchange websites. Like, they blacklisted them. Like, they won't show up on the internet in China at all. I'm not sure. I don't think a VPN will even get around this. Like, literally, the internet service in China just won't be able to go to these websites at all. So I don't think a VPN is going to be able to go around it. And there's only 206 crypto exchanges listed on CoinMarketCap, the best place to find all the crypto exchanges and all the crypto market caps. There's 206, so I think 124 probably represents all the crypto exchanges that haven't so far banned Chinese citizens themselves. So this might be like all the crypto exchanges in the world are banned from China. And they're monitoring social media. Like they have WeChat, that's like their big chat thing over there. Maybe it's like kind of like their Facebook for chatting. Even though Facebook's not that popular anymore, so I don't know what to compare it to. They're monitoring social media. They're monitoring everyone's conversations. They were probably already doing that, but they're monitoring them specifically for cryptocurrency. You know, if you are trying to trade cryptocurrency peer-to-peer, like be a Bitcoin dealer, they're going to get busted. And they're going to progressively expand their ban list as they find people and companies that are trading cryptocurrency or offering initial coin offerings. And effectively, they're eradicating cryptocurrency in China. And like I said, the dominance of the Chinese yuan has gone from 90% to less than 1%. And the less than 1% that still exists is illegal. And Beijing, the capital of China, has banned all cryptocurrency-related events. Like, they used to have conferences even after all these bans. That's banned now. They can't have a conference. They can't talk about it. But here's the really interesting thing. The People's Bank of China, which is like the central bank of China, which is equivalent to the Federal Reserve in the United States, they're developing their own national cryptocurrency. For real, they're doing it. There's been a lot of stories on this. So I don't think this is the end of cryptocurrency in China. I think they're just creating their own version of Bitcoin for China. And then they're going to launch it, and there's going to be a vacuum. Everyone's going to want a cryptocurrency, but they can't use it, and then suddenly China's like, hey, here's an official one. Use it as much as you want. It's going to grow tremendously all at once because they're creating a power vacuum. So I think that's really what's going down. It's like a big move to wipe the board clean and then put their one cryptocurrency for all the Chinese citizens. And that has the potential to become more valuable than Bitcoin. And it probably will be tradable in the United States, so that'll be exciting. But honestly, I don't like the idea of a Chinese cryptocurrency becoming the number one. Because Bitcoin's decentralized. The Chinese cryptocurrency would probably be centralized. For example, we just talked about the Chinese crypto rankings yesterday. Like EOS is number 1 on the rankings, and Bitcoin's number 10. EOS is one of the few popular centralized cryptocurrencies. Like there's a group of blog producers that can decide to freeze accounts and freeze transactions. So China probably will make a centralized cryptocurrency where they can freeze accounts and freeze transactions. And maybe that'll stop it from being popular across the whole world. Because Bitcoin will obviously be better. The whole point of cryptocurrency is to be decentralized so no government can abuse it. Like, here's another thing that I just thought of. China can abuse this cryptocurrency like the U.S. government abuses the USD and the Chinese government abuses the Chinese yuan to make money. They're going to abuse their national cryptocurrency to make profits. And Bitcoin is no one abusing it. No one owns Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just decentralized. It was created by one guy who disappeared, not a government that's going to be there forever. So these are all factors. But it's just interesting that they're wiping the board clean. They're going to release their own crypto that'll probably be centralized. And we'll keep talking about this as we hear more news. Now for our next story.
We have some more news from the South American country Venezuela. Some crypto news. Space Marine.
Affirmative Space Cadet. Bitcoin News wrote an exclusive piece. Amelia Trapp wrote this, and she writes really good exclusive pieces. She went really in depth on the situation in Venezuela. And basically, they've had 100,000% inflation in the past year for their fiat currency, the Bolivar Fuerte. It's been so bad, they're getting rid of their fiat. It's like if the US dollar got destroyed and then they put a new currency in. That's what they're doing now. They're getting rid of the Bolivar Fuerte for the sovereign Bolivar because of 100,000% inflation in the past year. In the article, it says 83,000%, but there's actually this thing called the Cafe Con Leche Index, which is at about 106,000% in 1 year. And that the Cafe Con Leche Index, they buy a cup of coffee at the same Venezuelan cafe, and they see when the price changes and they're charting it. It started at 2,300 bolivars a year ago, and now it's $2.5 million. Bolivars, I mean. And this cup of coffee is not even $1. It's like 30 cents or 25 cents USD. And it's 2.5 million bolivars. The exchange rate's about 10 million bolivars fuertes per USD. And this person that was interviewed by Amelia says people are desperately trying to spend their wages as soon as they're paid, and they buy anything they can find. They don't even buy the things they need. They have to buy them immediately, because if they go to sleep, and they're probably very tired after work must be hard there, so they're tired and they just buy whatever they see, and then they trade it later on for the food and stuff they need. And when people go grocery shopping after they trade the things they need, they bring 5 bags of cash, big bags of cash, to the grocery store just to buy their weekly groceries, compared to like in the US, you could bring a single note. You could bring a $100 bill and probably buy your weekly groceries if you're really frugal. In Venezuela, you need 5 big bags of cash with like billions of bolivars in it. And the ATMs that still exist have a limit of 1 million bolivars per day. And most of the ATMs don't even have that much. And 1 million bolivars is not even enough to buy that cup of coffee. So the ATM limit's less than when you need to buy the cup of coffee. So basically, like, the money's stuck in the banks. Maybe they still allow over-the-counter withdrawals, hopefully. But it seems like the money might be stuck in the banks because they don't want people to even like try to take their money out anymore. So the currency's totally collapsed. It's not worth anything. Like you need to bring 5 bags of cash. It might be better just to bring 5 bags of paper. It might be the same value. And when workers receive wages in a bank transfer, they pay a huge premium. It says several thousand% in the article. I don't think that makes sense, but supposedly it's several thousand%. And people are turning towards cryptocurrency. But Bitcoin's actually banned. Like, I've seen both sides of this. People were saying it's not banned and they're using it a lot, and then people were saying it's actually banned. I think it's banned. They're trying to stop the outflow of capital from the Bolivar, so they've banned Bitcoin unofficially. It's frowned upon. But they've released something called the Petro. And they're actually tying their new currency, the sovereign Bolivar, to the Petro. It has an exchange rate to the Petro. So for the first time in history, and this is the positive news, Venezuela has an official national cryptocurrency. This is the first country in the world to have an official national cryptocurrency, a big step. It's because their fiat currency has collapsed. But they're tying their fiat currency to the cryptocurrency. I think that's a bad way to do it. I think their fiat currency is going to collapse again, and then they're just going to be left with the cryptocurrency. That'll be the final evolution of this. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. The sovereign Bolivar will collapse quickly. The inflation rate's 1,000,000% a year. It's approaching that. It's at 100,000% in the past year, but it's accelerating so fast. By the next year, it'll be 1,000,000%. So the sovereign Bolivar might collapse within a year, and then they'll be left with the Petro. But nobody trusts the Petro. People, like, the government's saying that it's backed by a barrel of Venezuelan oil. But to quote the article, the Petro is not backed by anything. There's no way to back a digital currency to a physical asset like a barrel of oil without having to trust a third party. Here, the third party is the government, so I don't think anyone that understands this concept believes that they're telling the truth. I agree with them. You have to like really trustworthy third party, and even then, you have to trust someone. That's not the point of cryptocurrency. It's supposed to be decentralized and trustless. So you can't really tie it to a physical asset. I'm pretty sure they're not going to have an exchange where you allow Petros to be traded for 1 barrel of oil, because that would be the way to tie it. Like the Tether, for example, Tether Limited, we talked about this, ties each Tether to $1 and they actually allow redemption for US dollars. I don't think Venezuela's going to have a system for redemption of oil, so it's not really backed by it. Yet they're backing their national currency with this cryptocurrency that's not really backed by oil, but they say it is. Some other major news in this story is that there's only one cryptocurrency exchange in Venezuela right now, and it's not even really a crypto exchange. It's local Bitcoins, and they have that like in the whole world. You could trade peer-to-peer like with Bitcoin dealers, and you can give someone cash or bolivars and get Bitcoin. So that's the only exchange in Venezuela right now. And now they're going to launch 16 crypto exchanges at once for Petro. I think they're going to have Bitcoin to Petro pairing, and that'll be very beneficial if it allows a way for Bitcoin to get into the country. So they're going to launch 16 exchanges, and apparently these are going to be run by government officials and their families. So it's going to be quite centralized. But they're going to have 16 suddenly out of, like, none. Despite all the distrust surrounding the Petro and Venezuela's government, if Venezuela was honest enough or smart enough to actually make this a real cryptocurrency where they don't essentially control it, then the Petro could really be successful. Like, they say there's 100 million Petros, and if they're true about this, if there's really a maximum supply of 100 million Petros, it's a real cryptocurrency on a real blockchain, and they don't freeze transactions. And I don't think that might be true. I'm speculating. They actually didn't disclose how they made the Petro. They didn't disclose its specifications. Who knows what the Petro is or what it does? They say it's a cryptocurrency. I'm sure it is, but it might be a centrally controlled one, like even worse than the US, possibly. But if it's somewhat decentralized, like they don't freeze things, and if it really has a set limit of coins, then it would be very, very successful because the Bolivar is inevitably going to collapse in the next year. Even the sovereign Bolivar will collapse completely in the next year. And if that happens, the Petro will already be proliferating if they're honest about it. But let's say they're not being honest, and it started with 100 million coins and they can print as many as they want. I think that's really what it's going to be. I'm speculating. But this is Venezuela. They live off money printing. They would not put themselves in a situation where they can't print money. They would die. The government would just cease to exist if they can't print their money and still... Well, yeah, to go into this, when you print money, like the way Venezuela does it especially, even every country like the U.S., but in Venezuela, they're printing so much money, they're stealing everyone's wages overnight, every night. It's insane. So they can't live without stealing everyone's wages every night via money printing. So I think they are going to be able to mine more Petro or just print it. Like, they might just be like, okay, 100 million Petros, click. So if it's like that, the Petro is going to be another failure, and it's like a fiat, basically. But... if it's really a cap of 100 million coins, it could be extremely successful. It's a shame that governments like Venezuela tend to be so greedy that they wouldn't just let a currency proliferate and do good. Like, they could easily, anyone, a kid that's 12 years old, could create a cryptocurrency that has 100 million coins and is decentralized. A 12-year-old could do this. The Venezuelan government has far more capabilities of a 12-year-old, but also far more greed. They might create a cryptocurrency that can be printed infinitely and has centralized control. So it's really up to Venezuela. What did they do with the Petro? And since the Petro has such poor disclosure, who knows if they could just change it completely? Like, for example, Bitcoin could be changed. Like, most people don't talk about that because, like, there's a group of lead developers around Bitcoin, and then the community decides which Bitcoin code to mine. But you could change Bitcoin's code and then start mining it, mine your own version of Bitcoin. And that's happened with Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin has changed sometimes, but it hasn't changed from being decentralized. I'm sure the Petro could be changed. Like, if Venezuela's like, okay, we totally messed this up, we want something where we could print it, they could just change it and have everyone swap their Petros for the new one. So we'll see what happens. Like, basically this article's saying the government's so distrustworthy or untrustworthy that they're likely to abuse the Petro so much it's going to be worthless. They're probably right. But there's a small chance the government is making a legit shot here at launching a crypto. And if they just launch a honest crypto, Venezuela, there would be some tough times for the government. Maybe the government would have to be replaced, which is a good thing. They're like a cancer for Venezuela. So yeah, the government might collapse from no money printing, but Venezuela would have a really powerful currency called the Petro, and then their economy would do really good. Venezuela is a strong country when the government isn't stealing every dollar out of everyone's pocket. So Venezuela has the potential to be a really strong country if they had a currency that worked. And the Petro could be it if the government doesn't do a bunch of dishonest things, and that can't be trusted according to this article on Bitcoin News. That's all we have for you today, this August 23rd, 2018 edition of the BitcoinNews.com Daily Radio Show. Go to BitcoinNews.com 24/7 to read all the latest on Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency. We have the full spectrum of news. You will be an expert in no time if you read BitcoinNews.com. This is your host, Space Marine, signing out, going to the Andromeda Galaxy.
And this is Space Cadet. Thanks for listening.
Adios, amigos.